Hello guys, this is the Retro Guy again. So today I'm going to work on a project. In the past I published a video about Macintosh Color Classic that I was able to salvage. It had a very bad battery leakage on the motherboard, and I was able with a lot of work to actually get it back to work. So that was the good news. So I recapped everything on the logic board, and it actually got it. I got it to work again. Now, the problem is after a while, the image started to destabilize a little bit. So basically I've got a lot of brightness variations from time to time, some flickering as well, some of the geometry also like changing randomly. So I researched it a little bit and I saw that this problem was kind of like it happened a few times with other users as well. And main reason normally is related to caps on the analog board, or bad joints, like bad soldering joints. So for example, like a dry solder or broken soldering connections or something like that. What I did is I basically removed the analog board, I recapped everything. I realized that, for example, like I'm going to show you here afterwards, there are some diodes, Zener diodes, that in this model of the analog board, the current is so strong that eventually like they take a lot of heat, and they burn everything around them, basically. Like it really toasts everything around them. And it is bad design, I think, maybe. Well, maybe not, because after all, we are talking about a Mac that has like almost, 20 something years old, right? So if it lasted for 10 years, let's say, without having any issues, well, that's more than what we have nowadays, isn't it? Like modern computers, they tend to break actually more easy than the ones in the past. So it's really not that bad, but still like, it is a chronicle problem in the Mac Classic, the Color Classics. And the problem is it's very hard to find a working analog board. It's not so hard to find the logic boards, spare ones, but it's really hard to come across a working analog board. So either is the whole thing, the whole Mac, and even so, like there is no guarantee that the analog board is going to function properly, for an extra year or so, even if you recap it. So it is a big issue. And what some people do is they change the analog board from the Color Classic with one from the LC575, for example, which is a lot of work because this analog board doesn't really fit into the case of the Color Classic. So there is a lot of modifications that needs to be done for that board actually to fit into the case. And I don't want to get to that trouble. So what I'm going to do here is, for the 9th time, I've done this a lot, right? So I'm going to replace some of the components in the analog board. So I'm basically going to replace a huge capacitor that I didn't replace before, which is the 400 volts one. And I'm going also to replace again a short capacitor that it's very known to leak. It's already replaced, but maybe the component is not that high grade quality. And I purchased another one from Panasonic that tends to be like a higher grade one. So I'm going to replace that. And also, like I'm going to take a look at some transistors that people said that it's a good idea to take a look. And I'm going to also replace again those Zener diodes. So I have here like a whole pack of them now, and I'm going to replace them again. And some resistors as well that are around that area of high voltage that normally look very burned. So I'm going to replace those as well and see how that goes. I also bought like higher quality resistors. So, and also instead of being 1 watt, it's now 2 watts. So hopefully this will be enough to stabilize the image problem on this machine, right? So I'm going to try to document this process. Normally I don't film myself like doing soldering jobs and this sort of stuff. First, because it takes a long time, and second because there's tons of videos of people doing that already, so it doesn't make much sense. But I am going to dismantle this. I'm going to show you the problem in the analog board. I'm going to show you how badly some portions of the analog board has burned because of those Zener diodes that I mentioned before. And I'm going to show you what I will attempt in order to try to once again salvage this this analog board. So there is not much I can do after that. If this doesn't go, then that's it. Like, there is really nothing more I can do. I have attempted, like, this is really like the 10th time that I am opening up this Mac, and again, like, trying to resolder the components and such. So it has been a lot of work already, and the results hasn't been that great. I have a working machine, don't get me wrong, like, this is already way too good, but you can't use it really, because after, for example, like 20 minutes that it is on, not only the image starts to flickering and destabilize, but also eventually it actually power off the whole screen. So the machine continues to work, but no image whatsoever. And of course, this is not good. You cannot use a machine like that. So there is that. And the other thing is that I actually found and bought already a brand new Color Classic analog board. So it should take a while to come because it's coming from the US. I think I was really lucky to find one, and not only that, but a brand new. It's actually, it was never used. It's a spare one that is new in the box. And that will solve my problem, I'm pretty sure. But still, like, I want to fix this one, get it to work, so that I have a spare one in case I ever need it. Or maybe if I am lucky enough, you know, to come across another Color Classic with a good price, even if the owner says that it's totally busted, I'm able to at least replace the analog board and the logic board, because now I have a spare logic board as well. I bought the Mystic board, the LC575, and that basically left me with a fully functional original Color Classic analog board. So I can basically assemble a brand new Color Classic. If I had a case with the tube, that's all I need really. And it's not so hard to find those. Like normally people sell them when they can't fix it, or you know, like they remove the components and they leave the tube. And that's all I really need to build a brand new Color Classic, a functional one. So this could be a project that I will take on later if I get this analog board actually to work. If I can get it to work, then there is no point in doing this again. But so I'm going to swap the camera now so I can film the actual Color Classic here. So stick with me. So this is it. This guy was in really bad shape when I got it. So I bought this at eBay a while ago. Very good price. Like I paid like 60 bucks for it, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. And of course the owner said, I don't know the state, I cannot test it, and blah blah blah. So that's what normally people say when the machine is not working. So I took my chance, I bought it. There was a major battery leakage on the analog board. Analog board, on the logic board. I was able to clean it up. I was able to get it to work again by resoldering some components, recapping it, and eventually I got it to work again. There is a video on me actually showing that. And I cleaned everything up. As you can see, this machine is in very good shape. Everything looks okay, like it's very clean and everything up. But unfortunately, the logic board here is defective, right? So it's not operating the way it should, especially on the high voltage area. So I'm going to once again disassemble the whole thing. I'm going to remove the analog board here. I'm going to, you know, recap it using the components that I bought. So just to showing you the components that I've got here. So those are the Zener diodes that I'm going to be using to replace the existing ones, right? So those guys here are the major issue on the analog board. And so those are the caps that I'm going to be using to replace the one that I mentioned that it's very well known to have issues. I have already replaced it, but I have to admit I bought it at eBay at the time, and I don't think it's a high quality one. So I'm going to replace those with one of this. Here we have the resistors that I'm going to be replacing. I'm going to show that later on. They are a little bit larger, and they are 2 watt instead of being 1 watt. So I'm going to replace the ones in the board with those here. Hopefully they're going to take up the heat a little better than the existing ones. Same goes for this one here. So this is another resistor that I need to replace. As you can see, they're fairly large, but again, because those are 2 watt ones and not 1 watt, which is the original setting for those resistors here. What else I have here? Yeah, so this is the Opto coupler, right? That I also bought to replace it. So it's brand new, like Opto couplers here. I'm going to replace that on the board. This is something that I haven't done before, but people told me that it could be a good thing to do anyway, so I'm going to do it. And this is that very large capacitor that I mentioned before, the 400 volts one, which is basically this guy that you see here. See? So this one here. So this guy here haven't been replaced because it's actually very hard to find those capacitors. It's not actually hard to find, but they tend to cost a little more money. And sometimes having those in stock is also not very common. So you really need to look it up. So I found it at Mauser and I bought it. So this is the 400 volts, 330 microfarad capacitor. So it's a very large one. And that's it. That's the work that I will be doing here. I'm going to basically do this again, once again. I'm going to again recheck all the soldering joint and everything else, make sure that everything is there. And if this continue to happen, you know, the problem with the image and the screen shutting down, then that's pretty much it. Like it might be eventually like some integrated circuit that is failing, or I don't think so, really. I really think this is related to high voltage, but anyways, it could be anything. And I don't have the skills to actually go and test every single component in this board here. So if the replacements that I'm going to do here doesn't go, what I'm going to do basically is keep this board for spares and wait for the new one to arrive. That should take maybe another 1 to 2 weeks, if not more, because of this pandemic. And but that's pretty much it, right? So that's my last attempt to try to fix this analog board here. If you are eventually considering buying one of those machines, what I can tell you, really based on the experience that I have repairing like a whole bunch of different platforms, Mac platforms in the past, not only Macs, but other computers as well, like MSXs and others. What I can tell you is this by far is the highest maintenance machine that Apple ever designed. I never spent so much time with those, this guy here, really. Like any other machine, even notebooks that I repaired in the past. Like I've had a case with 5300 series PowerBook that had leakage all over the logic board. I was able to clean it up. I was able to recap it and got it to work without any issues. And it's running still today perfectly well. But this guy here, this is really a nightmare. So I really love this machine. That's the only reason I really invest that much time on it. Otherwise, I would for sure, you know, be selling it at eBay. Even as non-functioning, those machines will go for a very high price. So they are becoming rarer every day. So it's not easy to find those color classics, especially in working condition. And when they come on an eBay and other places, normally the prices are way more than you would be expecting. There is a guy in the US, for example, selling a functional one with the Mystic board, the LC575 for around like 1,500 quid. So 1,500 pounds. It is a lot of money, right? And people actually buy it. So that's how rare those guys are becoming. And I really want this to be in my collection, a functional example of this machine. So that's why I'm taking that long time to work on it, right? I think it is really worth it. But be advised, you know, if you're considering buying one on eBay, if the price is low, you can have it as almost a certainty that the machine will not be working. Sometimes it's an easy fix. If you are lucky enough, it might be very easy to fix, maybe just replacing some caps or something like that. But most of the time it will not be. So just be aware of that. You are going to eventually spend like £100 in a machine like this, which is a very good price for it, even if it is not working. But you might end up like spending way more along the way, right? So for example, securing replacement boards or even components to replace on the boards themselves, they will eventually come to some costly prices. Well, that's it really. So let me start the disassembly here, and I will basically lay everything on the table, and I will try to fix the camera with a tripod so I can feel myself basically working on that. Later on I can edit and just show the good parts. Cool, so stick with me. Okay, so that's the board. So here is the board, as you can see it. So it's already off the machine. The point that I want to show you on the board itself is so near this blue cap here. So let me just go on the camera to see what you guys are seeing. So let me see if I can zoom this up. But yeah, so right here, you see, right besides this blue cap here, this is the one that I replaced, the CF8, right? And you can see two Zener diodes here, and see how busted they are. They are actually working. I tested them. They are responding the way they should, but look at the damage on the board here. And same goes for those two resistors here. See this one and this one here. Those are black. And look around them, how brown the board is, you see? So this is the upside of the board. On the other side, you're going to see the magnitude of the damage. So this is the other side, and so let me see if I can get a focus here. So where is the area that I wanted to show you? So let me put my finger on it. Yeah, so it's down here. There. So this is the other side of the board, you see? So there is a patch that basically was totally destroyed by the heat here, so I had to make this bypass. So this is one leg of one of those resistors that you see there right in the middle here, right? So this here, this is a leg of one of those caps. In here you have basically the two diodes. They are placed in parallel, right? So two legs here and two legs down here, and you can see that basically it has been like a lot of damage to the board here as well. So what I'm going to do now is I will have to desolder those components. I'm going to resolder the new ones with the new values. I'm also going to replace again, because as I said, I have done this already, right? So this one here. So I am going to replace again this chubby cap here, right? And I'm going to replace then all those elements that are in this brown zone are going to be replaced. So here we have some high heat zones as well. So let me just, yeah, as you can see, it's pretty brown here as well. So a lot of high voltage basically crossing this area here. And this is here, right, this big cap here is that 400 volt cap, right? So this is going to be replaced as well. So I'm not going to touch those elements here because they seem to be okay, right? So even though like a lot of heat is crossing them, they seem to be just fine. So yeah, that's basically the work. So all those caps that you see in this board are new, all of them. So this board has been recapped like twice already, and still the problem didn't go away. So there is a lot of work to be done. And as I mentioned before, this is going to be basically my last attempt to recover this board. So the board is working, but it works only for a short period of time. After that, it doesn't do its thing anymore in terms of at least the video signals. Video just shuts down, and then no image flows. So I have to turn it off, wait like maybe an hour or so. Then when I power it on again, eventually it works again. And same thing happens like 20 minutes after, screen starts behaving like abnormally, and eventually the whole screen shuts off. So this really looks like a cap problem to me, because it looks like in the beginning, you know, things are okay, kind of, and then as electricity start flowing, the caps might not be doing what they should be doing in terms of stabilizing the energy and everything else, and eventually like things start fading. This could also be a resistor thing. So the resistors eventually, like when start with, it is okay, but as electricity flow through them, they might start not taking, you know, the heat, and eventually like things will start breaking. So I have no clue, to be honest. So I will do what I can, rebuild everything, put the board back into the machine, power it on, and hope for the best. So let's see how that goes. So I'm not going to show you like, you know, the soldering job and everything else, because again, this is only like a big waste of time. So I'm going to just shut down the filming now. I'm going to work on the board. As soon as I finish it up, I'm going to come back and show you the work after it's finished, okay? Hi guys, so I finished the job here. So as you can see, those here are the new resistors. As you can see, this one here is huge, isn't it? But yeah, it's the same specification, so it should be okay. This is the new cap that also I replaced with from the other one. That was I'm pretty sure the other one was good, but you know, just for the sake of and in here the two diodes, the Zener diodes, were also replaced. So I replaced pretty much everything that is related with the high voltage area. And here we have basically a shot of the problematic part. As you can see, there is again a lot of damage here. Right, so I cleaned this up. I basically soldered everything with fresh solder again. I tested it for continuity. Everything looks great. There are no shorts or anything like that. Right, so I did what I needed to do, I think, and that's pretty much it. Like I again rechecked all the soldering points in the board with a magnifying glass. Couldn't find anything that I haven't already retouched before. So if this still happens, it might be something else, like a defective IC or something like this, I don't know. So what I didn't do was replacing the Opto coupler, which is this guy here, the white one. So, and the reason being, the one that I received doesn't really match the readings that I have on this guy here, right? So the writings here are not exactly the same ones that are from the one that I received. So since I'm not too sure, I rather not, you know, attempting anything like that, risking, you know, damaging things even further. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it for now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I could do here. And once again, I'm going to close everything up. I'm going to give it a shot and see whether or not this baby now powers up and stays stabilized. As I mentioned before, it was already powering it up, so it was okay. From this perspective, it was just fine. It's just that the video was really unstable, right? So let's see if that fixes it. Okay, so it's all reassembled, logic board in place, cables connected, and ready to go. I swear I didn't test it before. I have no clue whether or not it's going to work. So I'm going to press the power button here and hope for the best. So I will not be too excited if it actually boots up, because as I mentioned before, it was already booting up before it was working. It's just that what I need to do really is like endurance test. So even if it boots up, I will have to keep it on for maybe an hour or so and go back and check whether or not it still on with the image is stable and everything else. That's the real test, right? So right now is the smoke test that I'm going to do. I'm powering it up, see if it actually boots. I'm going to keep my hand here close to the power button just in case, you know, like something goes bad and I have to immediately pull the power cable just in case. Okay, that's a good sign. So no smoke or anything, no strange noises. So I think I can sit down. So image comes in. It looks is stable, but again, like this doesn't mean anything for now, right? As I mentioned, it was working before, so. Yeah, it's looking kind of good. At this point, sometimes, depending on the, you know, sometimes when I booted it before, at this point here, the image was already starting to, you know, vary on brightness and flickering it up a little bit. So it is stable, which is a good thing. But again, I wouldn't bet this will stick. I'm also getting now, and I noticed this before, some noise when it boots. It makes like a kind of like weird noise on the speaker, but it's only during the boot process. It wasn't there before I started, you know, like for the maybe the fifth or the sixth time that I open it up and start messing around. So, but again, not to worry about the caps or anything like that, because those were all replaced on the logic and on the analog board. So yeah, it's just a matter of the endurance test now. So I'm going to keep this on for a moment. I'm not going to be filming, of course. And then I will come back and hope for the best. If it still shuts down, you know, not shuts down, but if the screen still like powered off, that is an indication that something more, you know, serious or something that I cannot find is still to be analyzed. So it boots up, image is quite stable. So increasing the brightness here to the maximum, it works. But again, this was working before. So I'm going to shut down now the filming and I'm going to keep this on for a moment. And if it works, I'll come back here and I will tell you guys. If it doesn't, I will do the same. Hey guys, good news. 2 hours later, no problems. So yeah, the repair was a success. Finally, I have a stable image on this Color Classic. Well, it's like they say, last time is charm. Okay, so one thing that I forgot to show you is so this is with the Mystic board installed. So it looks the same, but it's much faster than the original board that the Color Classic has. So this one has a full 040 processor. It's not the LC. It's the actual, the full featured 040 processor, and it supports way more memory other than the 10 meg that the original Color Classic supports. And I have added an Apple IIe card as well. So yeah, I don't know why it's saying that, because it was working just 2 minutes ago, and so maybe I need to reset the NB run or something like that. So let me try it again. Yeah, now it works. So I'm getting that error. I got it like a couple of times. I have no idea why, to be honest. So this is the Apple IIe card working. So it basically it's an Apple IIe inside of a card, really like the DOS card, for example, that has a 4086 processor. This one here has all the components for an Apple IIe actually to run within a Macintosh. And you can run all the Apple II programs. You can do basic here. So yeah, just a silly program that everybody does. And then hit on run and it goes. So yeah, it's very interesting. It works really well. And to quit out of it, just hit Control and ESC, and then it comes back to the Mac. So it works beautifully. I just have to see why it's giving me that weird error sometimes. It could be like a connection problem or something like this. Now it's working just fine. So I have to understand why is it giving me that. But yeah, so that's the Mystic Mac. So let me show you in the back, just so you guys can see how it's because the problem with the Mystic board is that the Mystic board doesn't really fit the rear plate of the original Mac, right? So when I bought that Mystic, it came with this acrylic laser cut plate here that you can just put there, and it fits beautifully. So it's a nice ending for this. So I'm still not going to close it because I want to double check the Apple card, which is this guy here, just to see if it is seated the way it should, so I don't see that annoying error anymore, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So this is the Apple II card that I saw. It was giving me some errors when starting up. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it was giving me that weird error. So looking closely using my magnifying glass, I just detected that this capacitor here, this one, is leaking. So this guy here is leaking. You can actually see, I don't know if the focus here is going to help me, but you can see the leakage. You see, there is already some green stuff there, and I cleaned it up, of course, and it was already like irradiating to the neighboring ICs here. So I have to do some cleanup here. Of course, I'm going to replace them. Luckily, I had two of those, the exact same readings. So I'm going to be using those here to replace those two caps in this board, right? So those are 22 millifarad and 35 volt capacitors on both here. So both were, they actually looked pretty bad. So as you can see, it looks like this one was leaking as well. I already cleaned it, but it was leaking. So both were leaking, and I'm pretty sure that's the problem. So it should be an easy fix. So just replace those two caps, and I should be ready to go. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to get back on the film. So the pads are clear, as you can see here. No damage or anything. This one was the worst one. When I started soldering it, I could feel that you know, unpleasant smell. So this had a very bad leakage. I still have to clean this point here. See, it's a little bit green still, and this one here as well. So just going to do a very good cleaning here. And this other pad here is also like intact, which is also great. So it's just a matter of you know, applying some new solder here and preparing everything for the new caps, and I should be good to go. And that's the final job. So this one new, brand new, 22 35 volts like the original, and this is brand new as well, also 22 35. Just to show you, like the first one that I removed, it was so bad. So let me see if you can actually see. I don't know if you can see the actual liquid, but it was really leaky. So yeah, it was a good thing that I catch this now. Otherwise, it could leak even more and you know, damage the the board, the circuits, and everything else. So this one looks good now. So this is the Apple II card, and it fits very well on the Color Classic. Even if you have the original one, you are able to use one of this. So I'm going to add this now to the Mystic board and test it again. So by the way, I didn't do the VGA mod in my Color Classic just because I feel that the VGA mod on that tiny screen here is just, you know, like it's just too tiny. You know, the characters and everything else, I don't like the idea. So I kept it original. What I did was I modified the actual logic board on the Mystic, on the LC575 board, so that I didn't have to use any res edit changes or any of the other mods, like software based mods. So it's a very simple mod that I do on the Mystic board. So let me show you that. It is a bit scary, yes, because those boards, as you know, are expensive. They are not cheap. So this is the Mystic board. So this is a board from a Mac, an LC575 Mac. As you can see, this is a full Motorola 040. It's not the LC, which is original with this board here. So the previous owner actually upgraded it. So the mod that you need to do in order to use the Mystic board without the VGA mod lies on here. Let me just put the board down so I can show you. So it's in this part here. Yeah, so there is this R116 here. There is a resistor here. It's very, very tiny, right? So what you need to do is remove this one here, R116, and place that one in. So I have to actually look now. Yeah, it's was in the 109 position here. Yeah, there. So it was moved to this position here. So basically remove it from here and you place it here. And by doing that, you allow the board to function using the Color Classic CRT. It still works under the original Color Classic resolution, which is to me great. I know some games are not going to run, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Like to me, at least, the resolution is important. I need to be able to read what's on the screen, and the screen is really, really tiny. So, and it works just fine. Right, so I'm going to install the Apple II card into the board. So it's done here, as you can see, right? It fits in this slot here, and that's pretty much it. So let me do that now, and we'll come back. So the Apple II card is in place. That's how it looks like. So it sits nicely on top of the board, right, with plenty of room for, you know, airflow and such. And it's not on top of the processor, which is great. It's not like the DOS card where the 4086 processor actually sits on top of the PowerPC processor on the Power Mac 601. So it's not really like a 6100, sorry. It's not really ideal, but this one here is better design, I think. And then in here, what you have is basically a connector for floppy drive for the Apple II. So it's independent. You can also use the internal 3.5 floppy from the Color Classic, but if you want, you can add an extra Apple II dedicated, for example, 5 1/4 drive or something like that. And also it provides for a joystick board. So this is like a breakout cable that you need to have in order to have the floppy and the joystick board, right? And that's it. So I'm going to install this back into the Mac and test it to see if now the Apple II card boots up without any issues. Hopefully that will be the case. So the board is installed. The back plate is also in place. As you can see, this is the acrylic plate to protect basically the back end. There are also like variations of that. You can buy them in white, for example, like, or beige, that to basically match your Color Classic, right? So it's a great addition if you are going to do the Mystic upgrade. Okay, so let's boot this guy up and let's see what happens. So let me turn off the light here and focus on the screen. So I'm really glad that the screen problem was fixed, apparently, right? So at least for now it's pretty stable. Doesn't mean that's going to basically be like that for a long time. It could fail again tomorrow or something like that. I will keep you guys posted, but for now it's looking great. It's really satisfied with my latest repair. So there you go, screen solid, sharp, bright and steady, which is the most important part, right? So let's wait for it to boot up and then let's launch the Apple II card again and see if that error doesn't show. If it still shows, then yeah, it could be something else. It could even be something on the actual logic board on the Color Classic. Hopefully that's not the case. So let's see. Okay, finishing the boot process. Again, the screen looks really good, much better than what I was used to. So the boot process is done. Let's start up the Apple card. There you go, no errors or anything. And that's go. That's it. So pretty sure that fixed it. It was like leaking caps. So even though I don't like replacing caps whenever it's not needed, there will be times where it's going to be pretty obvious that there is some leaking in progress and you need to take care of it. Otherwise it will destroy your board, right? So that's why a lot of people just start recapping right away. I don't blame them. It's just that it is a lot of work and a little bit risky as well, because especially very old boards, when you start in the recapping process, it's very easy to lift up pads and break traces and stuff like that. It has happened to me like a lot of times, and it is very hard, to fix that later on. So it is fixable, but it's a lot of work. So I'd rather not, go into that unless it's strictly necessary. So that's it, guys. I have now a fully functional Color Classic. Screen looks stunning, and the Apple card looks good, and it's going to last like for a good, bunch of years, especially after this recap on the board. So it's fully recapped now. Analog board is fully recapped, the logic board is fully recapped, and the Apple II card, that was the only thing that I didn't recap, and now it's also fully recapped. So very happy and with the final product. And I still have a brand new analog board coming in, so I'm not even sure I'm going to replace it now. I might just keep it, for for the future, because this one looks great the way it is. And I really would rather not keep opening up this guy. Like, I already did that a lot. And you know how it is, the plastic starts to get brittle and breaking, and so I will avoid that. So thanks for watching, and well, I will come back with some new stuff later on. Bye, guys.